In the late 19th century, England was changing rapidly, and cities like Manchester were becoming major industrial centers. But amidst the progress, crime also thrived. The slums of Manchester gave rise to one of the most dangerous criminals of the era. He was relentless, known for his violent nature and his uncanny ability to evade capture. His name soon struck fear into many. He became one of Victorian England's most infamous burglars, vanishing into the shadows as swiftly as he struck. But there was one man determined to bring him down: Detective Jerome Caminada, Manchester's very own Sherlock Holmes. Their rivalry would become legendary in British crime history. This is the true story of Bob Horridge. Bob Horridge wasn't part of a large organized gang. Instead, he operated within a network of criminals who occasionally collaborated on robberies. Many criminals in Victorian England, including Horridge, formed loose alliances based on opportunity. This fluid structure made it hard for law enforcement to track him, as Horridge didn't belong to a well-defined group. The criminal networks formed what Detective Jerome Caminada called the underworld of Manchester. Caminada, who eventually tracked and captured Horridge, recognized that Horridge's connections allowed him to evade capture effectively. Horridge relied on his network of contacts, moving from place to place, including Liverpool, to stay hidden. Bob Horridge's beginnings were like many others who grew up in the slums of Manchester. Born into poverty, he was surrounded by crime and hardship from a young age. Early records are few, but it's believed he started with petty theft as a teenager, learning to navigate the dangerous streets. As his skills grew, he moved from petty theft to burglary, a move that would make him infamous. In 19th century Manchester, the divide between the rich and poor was stark. For those in the slums, survival often meant breaking the law. Horridge became a symbol of the desperation felt by Manchester's lower classes. Crime wasn't a choice for many, it was survival. Horridge's struggle for power and survival would soon bring him face to face with Detective Caminada. When they crossed paths, the entire city watched to see who would prevail. By the early 1870s, Bob Horridge was well known in Manchester's criminal circles. His first encounter with Detective Jerome Caminada came in 1870. Caminada, already known in the police force for his sharp mind and relentless pursuit of justice, had grown up in similar neighborhoods to Horridge, but he had chosen a different path. His understanding of the city's underworld made him skilled at tracking elusive criminals like Horridge. In 1870, Caminada caught Horridge stealing a watch. Horridge tried to flee, but Caminada's quick action led to his arrest. Horridge was sentenced to 7 years in prison. This wasn't the end of their story. Their rivalry only intensified during Horridge's years behind bars. Once released from prison, Horridge returned to crime. His time in prison had only made him more determined. He planned a series of burglaries across Manchester, targeting wealthy areas with bold tactics. He used brute force to break into safes and storerooms, and fear of Bob Horridge once again spread across the city. Detective Caminada, aware of Horridge's return, kept a close eye on him. Horridge knew this too, and became more careful in his methods. The rivalry turned into a game of cat and mouse, with the city watching closely. Horridge's crimes grew more violent. He didn't just steal, he terrorized. In one incident, he broke into a wealthy family's home at night, leaving them terrified. He ransacked the house, stealing valuables, but the true impact was psychological. Horridge wanted Manchester to fear him, to know he could strike at any time. By 1887, Horridge's crime spree escalated. During a burglary, he was cornered by 2 officers. Rather than surrender, Horridge pulled a gun and shot both officers, wounding them. He crossed the line. He was now seen as a dangerous threat who had to be stopped. The attack on the officers sent shockwaves through the city. Caminada was more determined than ever. The manhunt intensified. Horridge fled to Liverpool, hoping to disappear into the crowds. But Caminada was undeterred. He gathered intelligence, monitored Horridge's contacts, and disguised himself as a laborer to blend into Liverpool's streets. It was this disguise that led to Horridge's capture. Caminada found Horridge in a hideout on Duke Street, Liverpool. The final confrontation was dramatic. Caminada approached quietly, catching Horridge by surprise. Horridge tried to reach for his gun, but Caminada already had him in his sights. With no escape, Horridge surrendered. Caminada's gun, now held in the Greater Manchester Police Museum, tells the story of that moment. Bob Horridge, the man who had terrorized Manchester, was finally caught. Caminada's pursuit had paid off. Horridge faced trial and was sentenced to life in prison. Horridge's capture was a major victory for Manchester's police and cemented Caminada's reputation as one of England's best detectives. Horridge spent the rest of his days in Parkhurst prison. His story is a reminder of the desperation that drove many to crime and of the resilience of those who sought justice. The Horridge case became a landmark in modern detective work. Caminada's methods, disguises, informants, and profiling were revolutionary. His rivalry with Horridge wasn't just about catching a criminal. It was a clash of wits that showed the complexities of law enforcement in a changing world. Bob Horridge thought himself untouchable, but his downfall was inevitable. Caminada's relentless pursuit and resourcefulness led to the capture of Manchester's most wanted man. Horridge's legacy is one of violence, but Caminada's is one of justice, leaving a lasting mark on crime solving in the years to come.